Good day everyone, I am teacher Neil Roma, and for today's video, we are going to tackle about the motor control theories. But before we start to our discussion, let me share to you the first our learning objectives. So at the end of this video is you are expected to first is know what these motor control theories, and the second one is know why these theories are relevant, and the last one is to know how these theories apply to our daily lives. So be it. You are all excited, so let's get started.
What is reflex theory? This theory, according to its proponent Charles Sherrington, believes that all movement is caused by stimulus-response sequence of events. When a stimulus is applied to a muscle, it will result in responses that are peripherally based and will then result to creating movement. I'll show you an example of reflex. Reflex is an involuntary or automatic action that our body does in response to something without even thinking about it. Now, based on the example, Neil was thrown by a stick, so he did catch the stick to protect his body from harm. And the response of Neil is automatic. How does reflex theory work? Starting from the stimulus, we are area of our brain which respond to auditory stimuli, and then to the receptor, a cell which we are able to respond to external stimulus. And next to it is the sensory neuron, our cell that are activated by sensory input from the environment. Next to it is the central nervous system that transmit nerves impulses between parts of the body. After that is our motor neuron, which impulses pass from the brain or spinal cord to a muscle or gland. And next to it is the effector, our effector, an organ cell that acts in response to stimulus. And lastly is the response. This response is our reaction. Motor program theory. This program is suitable when the environment is constant that the skill is close, or when the action is so fast that the performer has no time to act on any feedback. Motor program is an abstract representation of movement that centrally organizes and controls the many degrees of freedom involved in performing the action. I'll show you an example. As you can see, the dominant is the right leg. So by using his right leg in balancing, Neil can able to control the kicking. Now here, the non-dominant is the left leg. So by using his left leg in balancing, Neil struggles to control from kicking. And it happens that he also having trouble in balancing his left leg. This theory accounts well for fast continuous movements, although it does not work so well for slower movements, which may involve reaction and repositioning. Moreover, motor program organizes, initiates, and carries out unintended action.
My name is Ren Stiva, and I'm going to introduce to you about the hierarchical theory of the motor control. The central nervous system, or the CNS, or our CNS, is divided into tiers that are structured hierarchically. The motor context comes in second, followed by the higher association regions. Motor function level in the spine, for example, is the lower level is regulated by the upper level in the spine, executing motions. The reflex are only part of the hierarchy of motor control, in which the higher center normally inhibit this lower reflex center. For example, is the primitive lower level reflex are prestated when there are pathological change in the higher brain. Physical changes are frequently associated with a skill gain. In addition to as competence growth, one noticed gains is movement speed and precision. Gain is performs elegance and efficiency. Such advancement might take place in a variety of ways, including that with practice, degrees of freedom become available. Learning how to pair and decouple effectors may play a crucial role in motor learning. Modeling is difficulty. How such learning happen one's method of learning movement is throughout. A large learning continuum in use to support hierarchical learning. Based on the observation of motor development in children and adults, a children's capacity to sit, stand, and walk is related to the progressive emergence and disappearance of reflexes. Brainstem reflex associated with the head control emerge before midbrain reflex associated with the trunk control. The control behavior is hierarchically organized. Hierarchical theory of motor control is reflected in the parallel control loops through basal ganglia, thalamus, and cortex. But little is now regarding how different level of layers of control interact and how the brain or how our brain to coordinate with them. Let's call on Maylene Katubig for the continuation of this topic. Thank you for listening.
So hello everyone, so today we are going to tackle about what does hierarchical theory states. So it states that there is a strict top-down flow of control. The higher centers have a say on anything and everything that is happening in your body or what is happening in our body. And they send information to the lower centers to execute the functions. So there is a strict top-down of activity. The spinal reflexes are controlled by the higher centers, as well as the deep tendon reflexes and the other switch reflexes. They are also influenced by the higher centers, which they send information with facilitate or inhibit the spinal reflexes. The primitive reflexes gets integrated in CNS or the central nervous system. Example, the symmetric tonic neck reflex, which integrates to the central nervous system. It provides the separation of the body movements between the upper and the lower half of the body, allows the infant to defy gravity on their hands and knees. When you are doing flexion, just like the example in my side, which is the bilateral dumbbell curls, this flexion is for the biceps. When you are lifting heavy weight on both the hands, automatically your neck goes for flexion. So this reflex gets integrated into the central nervous system and surfaces whenever you are doing some activities which are required with a lot of effort. The next is, as you can see in the picture, there is a three level structures, which is the lower level, middle level, and the upper level. In the lower level, you can see that they are made up of brainstem and the spinal cord. We know that brainstem is made up of the midbrain pons, medulla, but only the medulla and the pons forms the lower center. Midbrain come along with the highest middle center, which is one step ahead of the pons and medulla. So the pons and medulla form the lowermost structures, and these structures are essential for survival, like your respiration, your circulation, and all these things are dependent on these areas because you have the centers for these functions in the medulla and in the pons. So the next level is the middle level, which are made up of the subcortical structures, just like your basal ganglia, thalamus, and the midbrain, which have the writing reaction. And they do not have the powers beyond that. So all these writing reaction and primitive reflexes are controlled by the lower and the middle centers, which are the functions, which is applicable to the quadrupole like animals or other mammals except human being. The highermost level, which is the cortex, cerebral cortex is the one who is going to give you a distinction between a quadrupedal and a bipedal, and it is going to take care of the equilibrium reactions of the body and fine movements of the body. So anything that is happening in our body is controlled by either any of these three structures. hierarchical theory has limitations, which is doesn't explain the dominance of reflex behavior in certain situations. This is lower level reflex that explains bottom-up control, and everyone's developmental pattern is different. Hands-on approach and hierarchical theories, environment, and other non-CNS factors can affect movement. If hierarchical theory had limitations, it also has clinical implications, which is repetition of normal pattern will automatically transfer to a function task and identify and prevent primitive reflexes. So, reflex analyses based on the hierarchical theory of motor control have been performed as part of the clinical assessment for patients with neurological deficits. So, that's all for the hierarchical theory. Thank you for watching, everyone.
Ecological movement in sports. An ecological viewpoint assists sports scientists in characterizing the functional connection that develops from the ongoing interactions of individual athlete, task, and environment, which is critical for understanding skill adaptation and talent development. The sub-discipline of motor learning underpins comprehension of skill, performance, and practice in sports, which is important for developing talent and strengthening athletes' competence. This is the example of ecological movement in sports. Okay, by emphasizing learning over performance in practice, athletes will be able to implement appropriate motor programs for basic fundamental motions, which will aid in the progression to more sophisticated and multi-step talents later on. As you can see in the video, this is the basic drills to improve your motor skills and improve your body. To participate in any sports, children's mental abilities must be developed. Okay, while on the field, a child problem solving and decision making skill improve. Okay. Another skills that sports education provides to children is the capacity to bear pressure. Skill development improves a person's competency in any given field, improves the ability to create a professional network, improve communication, time management, and negotiating abilities. Nurturing talent skills are something that can be learned. As you can see, the video, that was the example of ecological movement in sports. From the standpoint of ecological movement, the processes of performance and functioning in sports may obviously draw inspiration from biological systems that work together in symbolic fashion to thrive in a certain environment. During interaction with the performance of environment, a complex adaptive system in nature have the inherent potential for self-organization, resulting in continuous reorganization of muscles, limbs, joints, and segments, leading coordinated action in athletes and between teammates in sport. Ecological movement in sport is talking about development on the body of the athletes. That's all. Thank you.
What does it take to strike a balance? More importantly, what does it take to adapt into a balance? Whether you are walking to go to work, riding a bike, exercising, balance is an example of dynamic system theory's autonomous succession of movement. According to Bernstein's concept of motor function, a person has the ability to choose the most appropriate trajectory from among a large number of options. Dynamic systems theory explains how an individual adapts to integrations of systems cooperatively together to meet the task, individual, and environment. Dynamic system theory contains complex, nonlinear, self-organizing, and emergent.
To be successful at a task, it is necessary to maintain a sense of stability, determination, and attentiveness throughout the process. For this example, you will see the difference between regular squat and with constraints. When regular in squatting, it needs to be proper and balanced. Constraints have a lot of obstacle, but still the squat is executed. However, you can see a lot of differences between the two. Individual is a pattern of structural and functional movement. It has an effect on the body's unique composition. On the next example, the individual focuses on finding the center of gravity to keep balance on the platform. While additional constraint, the focus will be split into multiple parts of the body. A variable constraint in the environment, such as an audience, may cause a performance shift, since unexpected distractions may also play a role in this. As you can see in this video, she was first valuable support to a person attempting to focus, but after a while, she became so intrusive that the person couldn't focus at all.
I know both is not enough.